Hi. Whilst editing, I noticed that my bedside drawer was open for this entire video. I'm sure no one would notice, but it is incredibly distracting to editing Meredith. LOL at me thinking that moving the clutter to the other side of the room was enough. Anyway, enjoy the video.
Hey guys, and welcome to my August and September wrap up. Sorry if you hear my dog playing beside me. He did not want to leave for me to film this, and so he is just over on the side playing, getting into stuff he shouldn't be. So sorry if you hear that in the background, but I am wrapping up the month of August and September today. Like I said, I did not do an August wrap up. I started a new job and life was just hectic, as it always is, and so I just kind of took a little break from YouTube. That was not planned, but it happened, and here I am back again to wrap up the very few books that I read in those 2 months. So in those 2 months, I actually only read 7 books, which I know for BookTube is incredibly low. And out of those books, I have my cheat sheet here because I decided to rate books so weirdly these past 2 months, but I had 2 4-star, I had 1 3.25 stars, I had 3 3 stars, and 1 2.5. So if I could describe the books I read in the months of August and September, it would just be like they were just okay. Yeah, they were just very average. I didn't really care for any of them. The 2 that I rated 4 stars were rereads, and so everything else I read was just very middle of the road. Nothing really left a lasting impression on me, but that's okay. So that being said, I'll go ahead and get into the books that I read in the months of August and September. The first book that I read in the month of August was Eclipsed by Stephanie Meyer. I decided a while back to do a reread of the entire Twilight Saga in preparation for Midnight Sun, and if you know me at all, you could have guessed that I did not finish it in time to read Midnight Sun right when it came out. Back when I read this the first time in middle school, this was actually my favorite book of the entire series. I absolutely loved it, and I thought it was good. It was solid. I gave it 4 stars, but it definitely wasn't as great as I remember it being, and that's kind of been my entire experience with the Twilight Saga, which is really disappointing. I'm not sure if just reading it in middle school only once, I didn't grow as attached to it as I thought I did. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it was still really good. I hate to admit this because I am Team Jacob, but I definitely understand people's opinion that Jacob gets more annoying starting in this book, and I can see it. He does get more annoying, and I don't always like the choices he makes, so that is kind of annoying, but I still like him better than Edward, so I'm still a Team Jacob gal. But this book definitely made me see him in a different light rereading it at 25 years old. The next book that I read in the month of August was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This follows a young girl, Amira, and she is a babysitter for a well-off white family, and she has to take their young daughter to a grocery store one night when something goes awry at their house, and she gets accused of kidnapping the daughter while she is there, and it just kind of follows the events that take place afterwards. And I was really intrigued with this book. I had been hearing a lot of, I would say, mixed reviews from it. I heard people say that it was so great, and I heard people say that it wasn't their favorite. Unfortunately for me, it kind of fell a little flat. I rated this book 3 stars. I really don't know how to explain this book because we follow Alex, who is the mom of the daughter. She employs Amira. We really get in her head. We learn about her past. We learn about her thoughts. We are fully there with her, and I really wanted that for Amira. I thought Amira would be way more of a main character. I thought we would get Amira's point more, and to me, Amira didn't really have too many opinions about things, and she seemed kind of nonchalant, and I really wish we could have learned more about what she was actually thinking. I just felt like whenever there would be a situation where you were feeling angry for Amira, she wasn't the one that was showing too many emotions, which is fine. Not everybody's emotional, but I just really wish we would have got more of her point, because even at the end when something happens, she's being told to say things, and I don't know, I really wish we would have gotten more inside of her head and learned her thoughts. I don't think that made any sense. This was a book that I really had to sit on and think about, which is good. I think it is a book that's supposed to be thought-provoking, but it just didn't really hit the mark for me. Next, I read Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. This book I read because I was just in the mood for a typical YA book, which I usually don't crave reading, but I just think I was reading so many 3-star contemporary books that I just wanted something that was feel good. I don't know my thought behind it, but I went to the YA section of Libby for the audiobooks, and I scrolled, and Simon versus Homo Sapiens Agenda was one of the only ones that I was semi-interested that was currently available, so I read it. This follows Simon, and he is a high schooler who has not come out as gay, and he is talking to this person online who goes by the name Blue, and he has no idea who it is, but he is kind of catching feelings. They get pretty flirty, and then this guy starts to basically blackmail him and say that he is going to share these messages around the school if Simon doesn't get this guy on a date with his friend who's a girl. Big mess, big high school drama, and I gave this 3 stars. I should have known, because it sounds like everything that I would think was like a middle of the road book. It was fine. The characters were fun. It was just fine. I don't know. I didn't really have too much to say about it. I honestly don't really remember it all that well, because it's been like over a month since I've read it. One thing that I didn't like about this book is that I felt like I had read it before, because I read What If It's Us by Becky Albertelli and Adam Silvera, that's his name. I read that book probably like 2 years ago, and I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. I thought that the characters didn't really have much depth to them, and I had only read one other Adam Silvera book, and I didn't like it. So I thought that he was kind of the reason that it wasn't my favorite. I just thought maybe we didn't gel together, and I read this by Becky Albertelli, and I don't think we really mesh either. Her character was written a lot like her character in What If It's Us, Harry Potter obsessed. The same exact narrator read the audiobook. That is how similar it was. So I felt like I was just hearing this character from What If It's Us that I didn't really even care about in the book, and so I think that might have knocked it down for me anyway, that when I was listening to him I just didn't really care. And normally, like I said, I usually read books physically or on ebook, but since starting a new job I have a pretty decent drive, and so you can only listen to so many podcasts, so I've been trying to switch between podcasts and books and music, and so I just decided to put this on, and maybe that was the wrong way to read it. The next book that I read was One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. This follows a plus-sized girl named B, and she runs a fashion blog, and one night she decides to write about how this show called The Main Squeeze doesn't have any diversity in body sizes on their show, and she gets picked to be the main squeeze, which is basically the Bachelorette, and it follows her journey on this show with the guys and her insecurities and everything that goes into being picked as a main person on a reality show. I had really high expectations for this because I had heard really great things, and I am such a Bachelor franchise fanatic. I love it, and since quarantine happened, we haven't had a season of The Bachelor for a while. Since Peter's season, was that the last one? And that was a train wreck. So I was so excited to read a book about the Bachelor world again, and I did not really like this. I gave it 2.5 stars. I did like the representation of B. I thought that her insecurities and the things that she worried about on the show were so realistic and so spot on. I have definitely been there before. As someone who struggled with her weight her entire life, I definitely have had those same insecurities and thoughts, and she felt like a real person, which I really appreciated. Other than that, there wasn't too much that I really enjoyed. I was excited for a book that was about The Bachelor, or that had a show like The Bachelor, but I didn't know that it was going to be basically just a ripoff of The Bachelor. The channel that the show was on was called ABS instead of ABC. They had a reality Stefan instead of a reality Steve, which is just so unnecessary to put in the book. Why even mention something so close? It just annoyed me. The contestant brackets, we followed an entire group chat that filled out contestant brackets. I don't know of another reality show that does contestant brackets except for The Bachelor, so that was just a complete ripoff. Oh my gosh, when the host said take a minute to say your goodbyes, that can only be said by the one and only Chris Harrison. And there were just so many more. I don't know. I was really disappointed with that. I wasn't expecting it to be so close, and that was just a really big bummer for me. And I found the book boring. I was so bored. The Bachelor is not a boring show to me. I think there's a lot of drama, and I get really invested, and I didn't care about any of these people. I'll be honest. Even towards the end, I know that we were supposed to be rooting for people, and I could not have cared less. I just did not care for the guys. I didn't care about her experience. I just wanted it to be over, and that was disappointing. So I gave it 2.5 stars because there were a lot of things I highlighted, a lot of thoughts she had, but other than that, it was a pretty big miss for me. The next book I read was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I feel like I was one of the last people to read this book. It's so popular, and I just haven't read it. I struck out with contemporaries. I struck out with YA contemporaries. So I thought, why not try a thriller? And I don't know how I felt about it. We follow 3 different girls in this book. We follow, I'm not even going to try to remember their names. We follow one who is this woman who rides the train every morning, and she becomes very obsessed with this couple who lives in a house on the tracks that well, not on the tracks, but they live on a house that she sees every day when she rides on the train. She looks in the paper and she sees that the girl has actually been murdered, and so she becomes very invested in the story. So you follow her, you follow the girl who was murdered, and you also follow the girl who is now with the ex-husband of the girl on the train. This would be a lot easier if I could remember their names. But surprise, surprise, I gave this book 3 stars. I thought it was very okay, or like I've been describing everything, fine. I thought it was fine. I wasn't that shocked. I was really confused. I don't think unreliable narrators are for me, because at least in this book, kind of annoyed me, that we would be told something and we couldn't really know if it was true or not. I like being told a fact in a book and knowing that it's a fact. I don't like having to question it and wondering if the main character is basically just imagining something or making it up or whatever. So I don't really think that that was for me, but I was entertained. I mean, it was fine. It's like my main word I'm using to describe everything, but that's really like basically how I felt about it. I wouldn't say that I was super surprised by the ending. I didn't predict it. I mean, I guess I kind of did. There gets a point in the book where it's really obvious who did it, and so when you find out, it was not a shock to me. I just kind of expected it at that point, and so yeah, it was okay. I read I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, and I read this for a reading vlog comparing the movie to the book, so I won't go too in depth about it, but for those of you who don't know, this follows a girl and she's going home to meet her boyfriend's parents, and they're driving to his house, and it just kind of follows their road trip there, their experience there, and then their road trip home. And so that is all I'll say about it. It is a wild book. I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. Had to switch it up a little bit from the 3 stars, I guess, but I don't think I got as much out of it as everybody else did, because I think that the book is so spooky and just makes you feel so uneasy throughout that the ending for me just wasn't that big bang that I thought I would be expecting. I don't know. I wasn't too impressed with it, but if you want to hear my very in-depth thoughts on the book and the movie, you can check out my vlog on that, which I will link down below. And finally, I read Breaking Dawn by Stephenie Meyer, which I have it right here. I've had so many audiobooks and ebooks, I forgot how to hold up a real book. Could listen to the audiobook of this. But anyway, this concluded my reread of Twilight, and I liked Breaking Dawn so much more than I did previously. I really liked it, honestly. I know this is a lot of people's favorites, and it was not mine when I read it in middle school. I think I really liked more of the romance and stuff. Back in middle school, my ranking went Eclipse, Twilight, Breaking Dawn, New Moon. And now, as a 25-year-old who is rereading Twilight, my favorites actually went New Moon, Breaking Dawn, Eclipse, and Twilight. I know that no one likes New Moon, but as I said, I'm Team Jacob, and I loved having him in the book. I loved hearing his thoughts, even though in Eclipse and Breaking Dawn, he's a little hard to deal with. I understand, but I just like to think he has good intentions. I don't know. I love him. It was pretty much what I remembered, except, little tiny spoiler alert, when reading this and they were about to go meet the Volturi and they were preparing for a possible fight, I could not help but think of the movie and watching it in theaters with my friend, and we were so excited, and then we saw the whole scene with Carlisle's head just like hanging in his hand, and that doesn't happen at all in this book. And I remember just being so scarred and thinking it was the craziest thing in the world, and yeah, it doesn't happen in here, but it made me think of it and just how much that scarred me, and how I remember being in the theater where I was sitting, like the shock on our faces, just I can see it all played out. It's just like an outer body experience. Other than that, I did like this. I think that Edward matures more, which is hard to say because he's 100 years old. I don't know, I didn't hate him that much in this book, and maybe it's because it's not focused on the relationship and Bella isn't so obsessed with him. Plus, part of the book we're in Jacob's head, which of course I like, but I don't know, I liked this book a lot more than I remembered. That was my very wrap up of the books that I read in August and September. I'm really hoping that October will be better. I'm hoping to read more and more exciting books, honestly. I really have been trying not to be in a slump, but when you're exclusively reading 3-star books, it's very hard not to get into one. So prayers that I can read all of the books that I want to in October. And thank you for watching if you got this far, and if you did make it to the end, make sure to leave a comment and like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more bookish content from me. And I think that's it, so I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. This book. Fuck through. I am not a professional reviewer, clearly.